Oh,
I'll ask for any public comments if there are any public comments at this time. You may come forward. All right. Seeing none, we'll continue to our study session.
okay. Our first applicant is Elizabeth Altieri. And Charlie, if you'll start the timer when I finish asking the question.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What's the format here? Are people just going to jump in and ask questions, or is there going to be a...
No, Karen is going to ask the 4 questions that are in the packet, and the applicants will have a chance to answer. And then for when we get to the 5th part, which is the follow-up questions from City Council, you can look to me and I'll moderate that portion.
Very good.
Okay? Thanks.
Okay. So the first question is a short personal statement. Why are you interested in serving on the city's planning commission? In your response, please include a summary of your relevant education, skills, and experience, including any past civic involvement.
I'm applying for the city's planning commission because I would like to continue to broaden my civic involvement with Emeryville and contribute to its further positive impact to its citizens and the region. I've worked in the city since 1997, and the progressive evolution of Emeryville from its industrial roots to a flourishing community inspired me to relocate from suburban Hayward to this town as my family downsized. My husband and I moved to the Watergate condominiums in 2003, affording me the luxury of a walking commute to work and my retired husband easy access to his favorite restaurant, Trader Vic's. Having been an original member of the General Plan Steering Committee since its inception in 2004 has given me a heightened sense of long-range planning for the city and its surrounds. The loss of the redevelopment agency funds will have a profound impact on future development in Emeryville, and creative funding mechanisms will be required for such development consistent with the general plan. My seat on the city's Finance Committee, in its first iteration of including community members, further provides a strong base for understanding these fiscal implications. With 25 years of commercial banking experience, crafting financing options is an area where my background is especially strong. A current career in residential real estate provides further insight to the demographic base in Emeryville. A longtime board member of the Emeryville Chamber of Commerce, I also carry the business perspective to the table. As a consultant to ECAP, I'm also deeply committed to serving the neediest in our community. A resident and member of the Watergate Community Association's Finance and Architectural Control Committees evidences further commitment to our community. I believe that I would be a productive and committed member of Emeryville's Planning Commission, and that my many years of community involvement, both working and living in the city, bring appropriate perspective to the job.
Second question. What do you see as the role of a planning commissioner?
I see the role of a planning commissioner is to evaluate projects submitted to the city, study the planning department staff report, and consider its components in light of the defining principles of the general plan and its related elements, including the continuation of family-friendly and affordable housing in light of the demise of the redevelopment agency. Such development is essential to attract students and families, critical to the success of the Emeryville Center of Community Life, the cornerstone of Emeryville's vision. Each aspect of the proposed project must provide the greatest benefit to the city and its residents. Included in the evaluation is the Commission's responsibility to extract from each developer the maximum community benefits and highest quality design.
Third question. Describe your knowledge of the city's general plan and any other major planning documents that have been adopted by the City Council in the past 2 years.
I'm an original member of the General Plan Steering Committee established in 2004, and as such, I'm totally and completely familiar with the equitable process used over these many years in defining that plan, bringing diverse perspectives together in a collaborative manner and participating in the many public meetings gathering the constituents' input.
Question 4. Give one example of a recent economic development or housing project in Emeryville that exemplifies your point of view regarding design, community benefit, and/or community process, and explain why.
I was fortunate enough to be included in a recent groundbreaking ceremony presented by TMG, a long-standing developer of significant projects in Emeryville, including this latest phase of the public market PUD, a 194-unit residential development. This project is the culmination of a creative, ecologically visionary collaboration between private equity, city funding, and state and federal government financing. This award-winning design includes the elements of affordable housing and green technology and continues Emeryville's pace-setting position as a nationally recognized leader in sustainable reuse of urban infill.
The fifth question is the opportunity for the City Council to ask any follow-up questions they may have, and will be moderated by Mayor West.
Thank you. I'll turn to the council to see what further questions you have. No? No further questions?
Well, just me?
Yeah, go ahead. Please.
We were talking today, I attended the Chamber of Commerce meeting, and a lot has been said about family-friendly housing. So people talk about it, but I'd like to know what's your vision of what a family-friendly housing unit would look like.
I would have to echo, to a certain extent, what Jason Crouch said in that meeting, and that is that I think that, and when I first was looking to move here, I was looking for a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath place because my daughter was still at home and couldn't find it. And we had to wait until she went out, off to college before we could move here because there wasn't such an animal that existed. So my vision of family-friendly housing is I think you can build it. It's sort of like that baseball field. Whether they come or not is really going to be on the individuals, what they're looking for in the city.
Well, maybe I should have continued on, but characteristics of, because I believe that you can build a family-friendly housing unit that will work for everybody in Emeryville, so I was just trying to ask if...
Of the projects that I have seen, and I think I've looked at most of, certainly all the Pulte developments, it's really hard to include the elements of a green space for the kids to play. You want to make sure that it's safe. The cars aren't going to be roaring around the corners. I think it's a matter of just trying to see in your own mind what you would want to have being a person with either little children or grown children, and then seeing if it's something you can find.
Okay.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? I'll ask my question then. Actually, I have two. So one is you're intimately familiar with the general plan, and you probably know it better than I do. I'm curious, in terms of your priorities, there are lots of things planned over the next 20 years, and if there are certain elements of the general plan that speak to you and that you would like to see happen earlier than others, in terms of prioritization.
Well, unfortunately, when we were putting that plan together, we had no idea that we were going to lose redevelopment. And Charlie, one of the first things that he did in instructing us in putting together that vision was really to the sky was the limit. You know, if you wanted a freeway or pass over the freeway, throw it in there. So we pretty much did that, I think. The loss of the CIP is going to be, it's going to be hard. I think there's going to have to be a strong look at the general plan in light of that. But certainly, one of the first exercises that we did was we were assigned to walk around the town. And since that time, I personally walk around the town a whole lot. But walking up Powell Street is not a fun thing to do, especially with cars whizzing around. And so I think the most important part of the plan that I see is knitting together those streets and making them more pedestrian and bicycle friendly. And the other part of it is really making the gateways to the city an important and memorable thing. Thank you.
My final question then is about trees. You may have heard me talk about trees. What I've found is that everybody likes trees, but if they're in the way, they seem to be taken out rather than worked into a plan. And, I'm not a contractor, so I don't know how hard it is to work around them. But in terms of the role of the Planning Commission, I see it as very important to look at design and look at the existing space. I know that there have been buildings that the facades have been saved, for example. Can you respond about what you think in terms of that and how to otherwise encourage more mature trees in our town and what we can do as a planning commissioner in that?
Well, one of the things that I have learned attending various meetings over the years, there's been criticism particularly of the East Bay Bridge Center that was supposed to have these huge canopies of trees, and I was at one meeting where just because of the toxic nature of the soil, the tree balls that those trees are in, the trees just were stunted. It wasn't that, I think there were good intentions on having these canopies of trees out in that parking space, but physically the trees just couldn't grow. I don't know how deeply the Planning Commission gets into species of trees and how, what the experience has been. Certainly with those trees out there, they've got to be, 25, 30 years old, and they're still little bitty trees. So I think trees are important. I happen to be very lucky. I live at Watergate, and it's like living in a park. We have lots of trees, and it would be nice if the rest of the city could have as many trees as we have, but we have to deal with the urban landscape and, how those trees are going to react with the ground.
Jennifer, I thought of a question.
Great. Go ahead, Ruth.
Okay, thank you. A nameless former planning commissioner mentioned that he really couldn't envision, when he looked at elevations and drawings and off on the side when there are comments about what kind of skin a building is going to have or whatever, this person made an approval for a building that he later thought was ugly once it was built. So I guess my question to you, it's a subjective question, but do you feel like you can look at the drawings and specs and what the written proposed treatments are and then kind of envision what the final product is going to look like and how it's going to relate to its neighbors?
Absolutely. I spent 25 years doing commercial real estate financing, and I was looking at plans and walking dirt and talking with architects and approving, funding as various phases of the project went along, because you do that kind of financing on a percentage of completion basis. So I am very comfortable and familiar, and I have a good understanding of looking at plans and envisioning them in reality.
Thank you. Are there any further questions?
I guess I have one more.
Okay.
Going back to housing. As you were walking around the city of Emeryville, was there one housing project, because it looks like we're going to be building a lot more housing in town, that appealed to you, that you like the style, and that you would say, as a planning commissioner, that would be something I'd like to approve?
Actually, it's not the prettiest and it's not a recent development, but certainly from a realtor's standpoint, the Emeryville Village, I mean, really is, I think, it's got a pretty big footprint for the number of units in it, but it's like its own little town, and it's a very comfortable feeling walking around there. It's close to stuff, and it's right on the Emeryville line. So really, that one would be my favorite.
Okay, yeah, okay. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you for
Appreciate
the
it. And
opportunity.
as we said, we'll be making our decision at our next meeting on June 19.
All right, thank you.
Excuse me, there is one last opportunity.
Oh, closing
If you want-
remarks.
Closing remarks.
Closing remarks?
Would you like to add anything?
Sure. My husband passed away about a year and a half ago, which has reduced my domestic responsibilities. My children are grown, they've left the nest. I'm semi-retired, and I have the total, complete time, energy, commitment, and passion to devote to the city that I have come to love. And I thank you for your consideration of my application for Planning Commissioner.
Thank you.